My girlfriend, Rose, and I have been together for 4 years, and she is 5 months pregnant with our first child. My mum seemed to really like Rose, or at the very least tolerated her, but after we announced that we were expecting, something definitely switched in her. She has become extremely rude and disrespectful towards my girlfriend. She makes passive-aggressive comments at every chance she gets. I've had to take a step back from my mother until she fixes her behavior. Rose had gone to visit her family who lives far out of town. It was a very last-minute trip, and she drove herself to the destination and back. Unfortunately, at around 6 p.m., her car broke down, and she was forced to pull over. Fortunately, my brother, Chris, who's great with cars and lives about an hour and a half from where Rose was stranded, was willing to pick her up and sorted everything out. I was out of the country, so I'm grateful that my brother sorted everything out for her. Chris moved back in with my mum about a year ago. Obviously, the situation wasn't the best, especially considering the tension between Rose and my mom that exists for no particular reason, but I hoped my mum could put her pettiness aside for at least a night. It was too late for Chris to drive Rose back home, so my brother told her that he would drive her back tomorrow morning. An arrangement that my mum seems to not like, but one that she managed to keep her mouth shut about. Rose helps prepare dinner, wash up, and actually engage in a decent conversation with my mum for the first time in ages. However, they mostly avoid each other. Chris goes to bed earlier, leaving my mum and Rose. My mum lives in a 2-bedroom apartment and, since both bedrooms were taken, Rose assumed that she would be sleeping on the couch. She apparently assumed wrong. My mum gives Rose the thinnest blanket ever and basically screams at her, telling her that she has to sleep on the floor to not ruin her couch. She tells Rose to make do with the pillows on the couch and the blanket that provides zero warmth. Rose thought about protesting, but ultimately decided against it. According to Rose, my mum kept opening her door to check if she was sleeping on the couch, so she couldn't even try to sleep on the couch. At 5 a.m., Chris found Rose on the couch and let her sleep on his bed. He ended up telling me, but told me to not make a big fuss out of it. I did the exact opposite. I called my mum, very angry, and told her that she was disrespecting her so badly. She tried to defend herself by saying that she didn't harm the baby and it's okay for pregnant women to sleep on the floor, but I refused to hear any of it. Chris agrees with me, but told me that I shouldn't make it a fight. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Am I the idiot? I'm so glad you took up for your partner. I see too many times when someone makes an excuse for their family's bad behavior. Your mom obviously thinks your girlfriend either got pregnant on purpose to trap you, or she has a very old-fashioned idea that a girl getting pregnant before marriage is loose. Either way, making a pregnant woman sleep on a floor when a couch is there is inexcusable. Your brother obviously also assumed she would be sleeping on the couch, or he would have given up his bed for the whole night. Your mom should be ashamed, but you need to speak with her about this attitude change and let her know, if it doesn't stop, you can't continue to subject Rose to her hostility. Not the idiot. Not the idiot. I can't even believe someone could be that petty and despicable. It would be abuse, even if your girlfriend wasn't pregnant. Believe me, I went through the same thing with my stepmother in a slightly different circumstance. It's not easy to sleep on the floor, especially without proper coverings. It's a demeaning power play on your mom's part. I think it's time to speak with your mother. She is so hate-filled that she doesn't care about your feelings, girlfriend's feelings, or her grandchild's feelings. That behavior is inexcusable. I'm sorry, but your brother is wrong too. You absolutely should be fighting for the mother of your child and so in general. Not the idiot. That's it, you need to cut your mother out of your life. Who does that to the woman carrying their grandchild? Your child? She clearly doesn't mind harming pregnant women for no reason. She doesn't deserve to be in you or your child's life. Tell her she won't have a relationship with your child, won't see them, won't come to your wedding if you marry, won't see you at the holidays. Good for you for standing up to your mom, but don't back down. Chris sounds like a good brother. Shame he went to bed early. and didn't see what happened until later, but he did the absolute decent thing. My 23 husband, 27, met his best friend, 27, at their junior year in vet school, and they've friends since. They are super close and hang out all the time. We've never been the best buddies, but before this I considered him my friend too. He lived with his girlfriend and had a job at a local vet, but due to corona, he lost them both. His girlfriend said that she didn't want to be with him anymore, and being locked with him wasn't as fun as she thought, and his job closed due to the pandemic, so my husband invited him to stay with us until he could get himself together. My hubby obviously talked with me, and I agreed, because as I said, believed he was my friend too. He has been here almost 3 months now, and he has been okay. He cleans after himself, helps around the house and wash the dishes 2 days a week, but that doesn't justify his behavior. It's been super hot these last couple weeks, and since I'm working from home, I usually spend my days wearing skirts, dresses and shorts. I sit in a small table in the living room that's close to the window, and I do my things. His best friend does some freelance work there too, and I've caught him several times looking at my legs. At first I thought that it was an incident, but no. He legit stares at my legs for minutes and acts like he was doing something when I move. I was uncomfortable, and I started to wear pants again, but I became mad with myself. Why do I have to wear things like that in my own home to feel safe? I decided to go back to shorts, only shorts, so I didn't have any accident that provoked a different reaction, and that was worse to be honest. I think he saw my switch back as an invitation, and now he often comments about my legs. How long they are, how shiny, that they surely are soft and creepy things like that. He even started to walk behind me, so he is close to my back when he doesn't even have to. That scared me big time, and I ended up telling my husband that his friend was harassing me when he wasn't here, but he didn't believe me. He said that I was probably misunderstanding, and that was his way of thanking me for everything, by saying how beautiful I was, but I said that he is only complimenting my legs, and he told me to just drop it. His friend didn't stop, and I didn't know what to do, so I decided to record him, and I show it to my husband. When he knew I was telling the truth, he confronted him, and I don't know what happened, but they ended up fighting, and his friend left the house at that moment. My husband apologized to me, and we are working on that, but his dad believed that I am an idiot for ruining their long friendship, and that it was my fault for dressing like that, and now I feel bad. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Your husband should have just freaking believe you instead of making you get proof, and his dad is essentially saying that you should have put up with literal harassment for the sake of their friendship. Friends don't creep on friends' wives. I mean, decent human beings don't do it at all, but that aside, you don't behave this way towards your friend's family. He screwed the relationship over himself. His dad and his friend are the worst jerks, followed by your husband who thought your little lady brain just couldn't process a compliment. But he has apologized, and if he is working on it, then good. Not the idiot. You're the only person in this story that and not the jerk. You were in your house, you can wear what you want. You thought this man was your friend, you open your house to him and try to help him, and he thanked you by harassing you. He's an idiot. You called your husband for help, and he chose his best friend over you? That's crazy. He needed proof? What? If you hadn't recorded him, things could have escalated quickly, all that, because he refused to believe you the first time. And a father-in-law is a giant jerk, making you feel guilty when you did nothing wrong, choosing the abuser over the victim. Not the idiot. You got the receipts and demonstrated the truth about the harassment. You shouldn't have had to do this to get your husband on your side. My wife was being creeped on by someone we knew, and I didn't see it because it wasn't done in front of me. But I believed her and said I'd help her make it stop. I was sensitized and kept a watchful eye. I still didn't see it the next time it happened. I assured my wife that if she saw it again, make a scene, and I'll back her up. Later, I watched this guy, who was engaged, creep on another woman. So we made sure he and his partner knew and that it must stop, and fortunately it has. Okay, so I, 32, work at the biggest hospital in my area. I have been working here for almost 10 years now. I started out as a contracted full-time employee, but then had my daughter, 4, and asked to be switched to per diem, which allowed me to work less hours and have more flexibility. Now, one of my coworkers at another wing of the same hospital is Donnie, 38. Over the years, I have heard comments about her not putting in the work or slacking off, but our specialty is very much in demand in our area, and I guess that's why she never really suffered any consequences. Donnie also works per diem, as she has a contracted part-time job elsewhere. Almost 2 years ago, she got pregnant. She told me she intended to stay home with her son for the first few months, and asked me if I would cover her shifts at this other wing, so they wouldn't bring in someone else. Since it was only going to be about 6 months, I said yes. The thing was that her baby was born, 6 months passed, and while she went back to her other job, being a contracted employee, she kept telling me to hold on just a little longer, because she was adjusting to getting back to work. A few more months passed, and she kept telling me the same thing. At this point, I had already adjusted to working that many hours again and was okay with it, but I don't deal well with uncertainty, and the not knowing was really wearing me down, so I told her that I hadn't signed up for subbing for her for this long, that I needed to find something more stable and long-term for myself, and that I was going to talk to HR about getting someone else to replace her if she didn't come back. She said she would come back soon. She didn't. So I went to HR, let them know that I wanted to go back to my old wing only, and they let me know that they thought I had done a really good job and were interested in keeping me long-term. They ended up offering me a contract to work both this new wing and my old one, and when I asked what about Donnie, they told me that she would be welcome to take up any shifts that arose upon need, but that she probably wouldn't have as many hours as she used to. They talked me into believing it was her fault for leaving me and them hanging, and I ended up accepting the contract. Now here's where I might have been the idiot. I asked them to talk to her about it and didn't tell her anything myself. I thought it was their responsibility, since it hadn't been my initiative, and I had solely accepted their offer. It took her a couple of months to contact me again, letting me know she was coming back, and I realized immediately HR hadn't talked to her. So I told her to talk to them. Not even 1 hour later, she calls me absolutely fuming and calling me all sorts of names for blindsiding her and asking me if I was the witch who had her job now. I feel really bad for not telling her now, but I truly thought that they would talk to her back then, so I never thought about it again. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot at all. You covered her shift for months. If you hadn't, they would have found someone else straight away. You then told her you couldn't do it, and had you not accepted, they would have covered her shifts then. But if you are friends, rather than acquaintances, then I would have told her myself. That way you could have said they were pleased with your work, and you have been offered your own contract, without getting into details of taking from her. Fit all you know, the shifts might have been there by the time she actually wanted to start working, or someone else might change their hours. Not the idiot. You told her you were going to HR to talk about replacing her with someone else. So why did she call you and not them? And why did it take her 2 months to check in with you? And when she did call, it wasn't even to ask, hey, how did that meeting with HR go? Do you know if they replaced me? Instead, she called and was like, yep, I'm ready. Thanks for putting the world on hold for me. HR changed your contract, and, thus, hers. It's appropriate for them, or Donnie's supervisor, to have the conversation, not you. You clearly were the only one in this situation that cared about your timeline, wants and needs. Not the idiot. She basically left the position for a long time. Then when she came back they filled the position because she didn't communicate with them properly and didn't follow their boundaries within the position. They hired a skilled replacement. Go to HR and report the conversation with them. It is inappropriate for a coworker to speak to you like that, and she needs to be on notice that it was her choices that cost her the job, and her choices that should cost her the position at the company, since she thinks it's appropriate to curse out coworkers who did her massive favors for extended periods. This happened nearly 2 years ago. I was flying to visit my family and had an aisle seat, which I was very thankful for because I get kind of claustrophobic in middle or window seats. I was getting buckled up and everything when a lady comes over with her 2 kids, maybe 4 or 5 years old. Looked like twins. She sees me sitting there and asks if I would be willing to switch seats with her. I don't remember exactly where her seat was. I think it was a few rows behind mine, and it was a window seat. I didn't want to switch, and I told her as much. She got very annoyed and asked me again and again. The flight attendant told her we were going to take off soon, so the lady asked me to move yet again. When I said no, she said that it was fine, but I would have to watch her kids. I told her I wouldn't do that, and she should have bought seats together if she was that concerned. She got all huffy and just went back to her seat. I put my headphones on and started watching a movie, and didn't really pay much attention to the kids. They started arguing at some point, and it led to one of them crying. After a few minutes of screaming, the mom came over and asked why the heck I wasn't doing anything. I said that I wasn't going to take care of someone else's kids, and I had explicitly told her that at the beginning of the flight. Eventually the flight attendant found someone in an aisle seat that was willing to switch with the lady, so that person took the window seat, the lady took my seat, and I took the other aisle seat. When I told my family about it, they said I was an idiot and should have just watched out for the kids. I don't think it's my responsibility though, they're not my kids, and it's not my fault that the mom didn't buy seats together. Also, if something happened and the kids got hurt or something urgent, I would have helped. I just didn't want to spend my entire flight tending to them and breaking up arguments. Am I the idiot for ignoring them? Not the idiot, of course. No one should be forced to give their seats away, especially for one that is worse for them. I'm glad that the flight attendant managed to help and find a solution. I'd just like to add that there are several reasons why their seats weren't together, though. It could have been an emergency trip, and number 3 seats together were available. They could have bought them together, and the airline changed it unilaterally. It's stupid, but it happens. They could have bought 2 sets of 2 seats expecting dad or grandparent to travel together and each take care of one kid, but the other adult couldn't join last minute. It's not automatically mom's fault that the seats aren't together. You are the idiot. This is one of those situations that everyone forgets that just because you don't have to do something doesn't mean you shouldn't. You kept a mother from her very young children. If there wasn't another good Samaritan, everyone would have had to listen to the kids scream the whole flight because you couldn't be slightly inconvenienced. How is she supposed to parent her kids if she's not allowed to sit with them? Flights are notorious for separating families. It happens all the time, unless you're wealthy enough to buy the tickets very early or pay for the specific seats you want. Have some humanity. Everyone's the idiot here. She screws for just giving up like that. She is passive-aggressively gave up instead of trying to find a solution. But you screw because you have no empathy. Airlines screw people over all the time. They actually have a habit of overbooking flights in case some people miss it. You don't know what happened. You could have also tried to find another person with an aisle seat to switch with, and then they could take her seat. But no, both you and this lady just decided to be passive-aggressive, and then you both subjected the entire plane to screaming children. Also, the airline could have found a solution not to separate a mother from her young children.